I'm down on a quarter section of land that we call the Muir place. It was homesteaded by the Muirs, and then they moved down to the States, and my great-grandfather rented it from them for a number of years and then bought it from them in the 40s or 50s or something. So it's a quarter section with a big water run down the middle that kind of cuts it up. The original buildings used to be way over there at the bin. We have a well over there where our cows water. And the dugout that I was measuring, that's got a little bit of water in it, is down there, just on the other side of those trees. A lot of water drains down through here. And at some point, they've had a backhoe in here to kind of help make it go away, or that would just have been a big yucky swamp. So there's about 22 acres that I'm standing on. Our bees, a guy takes care of it. They're his bees, actually. I call them our bees, but they're his bees. Gives us some honey, and he gets to keep his bees down here. We're just gonna pull the fence up here. We had the cows down here that stayed home for a while. I can't remember exactly when we moved them. I'll have to look it up. And then after we got our hay released from the insurance, we turned the cows loose on the hay. And so now they're kind of in the way. We got to drive through that field to combine one of our last pieces, and it's time to move them anyways. So this has had a several month break from cows, and you can see there's a fair bit of, they didn't get all the grass ate before they moved. And yeah, so I'm just going around all the fences and making sure everything's good before I open up the gates, and I'll make sure all the bulls are there. And yeah, I'm on the Muir place looking down the fence line onto another one of our fields. That field over there never had any cows on it at all yet this year. We didn't hay it, we didn't do nothing. It's just been left. There'll probably be some cows go on it after they get home and get it ate off. And you can see how brown it is. Most of the grass is pretty brown, and I don't know, a lot of stuff has gone into seed set. On the other side here is green. They'd nipped it all off, and then it's still vegetative, which is part of why people like to do rotational grazing. You just try and keep it in the vegetative state, and they nip the heads off before their seed sets, and then the grass keeps growing. And when it rains, it works really good, and when it doesn't, nothing works. So there's nothing wrong with this. This field has had a whole year to just kind of rest, and we'll put some cows on it after it freezes up just to clean it off. And the ones we got home are going to be happy as can be to get on this stuff. This is just another shot of some of the stuff that's been grazed off, and some of the stuff that hasn't had anything on it for a year. I hayed it last year, and I don't think the cows were even on it for very long in the fall. About 20 years ago, we started taking some of our cropland and seeding it down into grass legume mixture. And the plan was, because grain crops, like everything, had gotten so big that our scale just simply wasn't big enough to make it very economically viable. So we thought, well, we'll seed it down to permanent grass legume mixture, and just run enough grain to keep the cows going and make some straw for the winter, and pretty well put them on the grass, and that was going to be the deal. And the first few years it worked super duper good. We had, you know, some dry years, but the grass caught anyways. It just took a little bit longer, and in the wet years we had lots of bales. But what happens over time is you start fighting against three big things. One, if you got cows, you've got compaction. And then your fertility, over time, the legumes start to die out, and then your fertility starts to go down. And the third is then when the grass is shorter, you start to get gophers and stuff. So we've kind of reached a point where we're starting to break some of this grass up a little bit and kind of cycling it through, because the productivity is getting down, so it's just not economical to keep it the way it is. So one of the things we've been trying to do, last year worked really good because we had lots of moisture, is putting some nitrogen fertilizer on, because our legumes have long since died out in the mix, and getting nitrogen back into the system. And once you get the nitrogen into the system, my guy tells me, that sells me the fertilizer, that once the nitrogen's in the system, it's pretty hard to get it out. We don't have any problems with leaching or anything like that. Basically, it's going to leave your field in the form of a bale, or in the form of like protein in a cow, or otherwise it's going to, you know, cycle through. And we don't have a lot of standing water to lose nitrogen that way. So we'll see. This year we upped our ante on the fertilizer bit, and we got a little bit of rain to put it in, but the drought has made it so we can't really see a lot of benefits. But the piece the cows were on over there, it was fertilized, and the cows have been on it most of the summer, and it stayed green and vegetative even though it didn't get very big. So my fertilizer guy tells me that even if you don't get the size out of your nitrogen, it increases the protein content of the feed. So I'm going to take his word for it without testing. I don't know how you would know for sure, but I know that we wouldn't have been able to have all those cows over there for so long if we hadn't fertilized it. We're waiting to see what kind of carryover effect we have in the following years after we put some stuff on, whether it's got to be a yearly thing or every couple years, or yeah, we broke some this year, but then it got so hot and dry and dusty and windy, we decided we weren't gonna, we didn't want it blowing. So it's kind of a weedy mess, because we just left it so that it wouldn't blow away over the winter, because that looked like it was going to be a thing. And we'll probably seed some oats for green feed in it next year and green feed it, and then kind of summer follow it half a year to get it cleaned up. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. Sure a beautiful morning. Couple of hawks, 3 down here anyways. They're sure hollering either at me or at each other. I'm not sure what the deal is. Everybody's all excited anyway. Quite often there's a nest in those trees there. I do everything I can to encourage the hawks and the coyotes and everything else to keep things cleaned up down here.